Why did everyone hate me? Was I not a human being like them? When did having body hair as a woman become a crime? The humiliation is too much. I didn't create myself, so why am I constantly facing bullying and insults from my fellow students?
If silence could scream, Angela's life would be the loudest in the room. She sat at the back of Class 9B, hugging her sweater like it was a shield. Even when the sun boiled the classroom, she kept that old brown cardigan on. Her head was always down, her voice barely a whisper. She never laughed, never smiled, but there was one thing everyone noticed and whispered about. She was too hairy, not just a little. Her arms were covered in thick hair. Her sideburns grew like a boy's, and above her lips sat a faint but visible mustache. At just 13, she looked like she was hiding a secret that even God had forgotten to explain. And in a class ruled by girls like Lola, Sasha, and Vivian, the classroom queens, being different was a crime. Lola made sure everyone knew Angela was an outsider. She made it her daily mission. "You think she's going to make it through the day?" Lola said one morning, loud enough for the whole class to hear as Angela passed. Her voice was sharp, a blade cutting through the air. "Watch her. She's probably got more hair on her body than the boys." The class giggled. Angela didn't react. She never did. She just walked to her seat, keeping her head low. But today, things were different. Lola wasn't done. "Angela!" Lola shouted, her voice commanding the room's attention. "Get over here." Angela froze. Her heart skipped a beat. The whispers, the laughs, the eyes, they all turned to her. Slowly, she walked to the front. Lola stood with her arms crossed, a wicked smile on her face. Sasha and Vivian stood beside her, eyes gleaming. "You see this girl?" Lola said to the class, pointing at Angela. "She's got a jungle on her body, and she thinks she can just walk around like it's normal." The class laughed again, louder this time. Angela could feel her cheeks burning with shame. "Since you like being so different," Lola continued, "let's make you really stand out. Kneel." Angela's eyes widened. "What?" she whispered. "Did I stutter?" Lola's voice dripped with mockery. "Kneel and say, 'I eat hair.'" The room went quiet. The tension was unbearable. Angela wanted to run, to disappear. But her legs felt like stone. "Go ahead, Angela. Kneel and beg," Sasha sneered. Vivian joined in. "It's what you deserve." Angela's heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to fight back, but the fear of being humiliated again paralyzed her. So she knelt. Slowly. She could hear the class's laughter growing louder, the sound echoing in her ears. Her hands trembled. I eat hair," she muttered, barely audible. "Louder," Lola commanded. "Louder, so the whole school knows what a freak you are." Angela swallowed hard, but the words escaped her lips. "I eat hair." The class burst into uncontrollable laughter, and Angela's stomach twisted with shame. "Good girl," Lola said sweetly, her eyes sparkling with satisfaction. "Now go back to your seat. You're so lucky we let you stay in our class. You're nothing but a joke." Angela slowly stood up, her legs shaking, and walked back to her seat. Her face burned, her throat tight with the weight of what just happened. She wanted to cry, to scream, but all she could do was bury her face in her arms and wait for the bell to end the torment. The bell rang, but the bullying didn't stop. Lola, Sasha, and Vivian continued their cruel remarks throughout the day. Every chance they got, they mocked Angela, calling her names, making her the punchline of every joke. When the bell rang for lunch, Angela hurried out of the classroom, desperate to escape. She wasn't hungry. She couldn't remember the last time she felt hungry. Her stomach twisted with a mixture of anger and sadness. But before she could leave, Lola called out to her again. "Where do you think you're going, Jungle Girl?" Lola said, her voice like venom. "We haven't had our fun yet." Angela turned around slowly, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. She didn't want to fight. She didn't want to argue. She just wanted to be left alone. But they weren't done. Sasha grabbed Angela by the arm and yanked her back. "You think you can leave? You owe us, freak." Angela's heart pounded as the girls circled around her. They weren't going to let her go. They never did. Vivian leaned in close. "Go on. Tell us how much you love being bullied. Tell us how much you love being our entertainment." Angela opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Her body trembled and her knees wobbled. The humiliation was too much. She felt like she was suffocating. And that's when it happened. The teacher walked in, interrupting the scene. She didn't see what had just transpired, but she could tell something was wrong. Lola shot a look at her, a wicked smile creeping onto her lips. "Don't worry, Miss Taylor. We were just teaching Angela some humility." The teacher gave them a warning glare before ushering them back into the classroom. But the damage was done. Angela walked back to her seat, feeling like every pair of eyes was still on her. The laughter, the cruel words, the humiliation, they followed her like a shadow. But what they didn't know was this. At home, Angela cried herself to sleep. Her mother, a single parent, tried to comfort her. "You are beautiful, Angela. You are more than what they see." Angela wanted to believe her mother. She really did. But how could she when the world kept telling her otherwise? That night, Angela sat in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. She traced the hair on her arms, her face, her lips. What was wrong with her? Why was she so different? The next day, the bullying would be worse. And Angela would be forced to confront something she wasn't ready for. Something that would change everything. The following day, the whispers were louder. The classroom seemed even colder. Every step Angela took felt like walking on shards of glass. The eyes of her classmates followed her, some with pity, most with ridicule. It wasn't just Lola, Sasha, and Vivian now. It was everyone. But it wasn't just the girls who tormented Angela. It was the stares of the boys too. They saw the fuzz on her arms, the dark patch of hair on her upper lip, and they made jokes. Some of them weren't even clever. They just laughed because they thought it was easy. And it made Angela want to disappear. Lola, ever the queen of cruelty, didn't waste any time. As soon as she saw Angela step into the room, she leaned over to Sasha and whispered loud enough for Angela to hear. "Look at her. How does she even sleep at night, knowing she looks like a werewolf?" The class giggled. It was an old joke, but it still hurt. "Hey, Angela," Lola called out suddenly, her voice sharp. "Come here." Angela froze, her heart hammering. She didn't want to go, but she couldn't ignore Lola. Not now. Not in front of the class. Not when she knew what would happen if she didn't. With shaky legs, she walked to the front. The class's eyes were on her. She could feel the weight of their gazes like 1,000 invisible hands pressing down on her chest. Lola smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Let's see how much of a freak you really are, huh?" Angela swallowed, her throat dry. She had learned by now that there was no point in standing up to Lola. She'd only make it worse. "Go ahead," Lola said. "Take off your cardigan. Let's see what's really hiding underneath." Angela flinched. Her cardigan was her armor. It was the one thing that helped her feel a little less exposed, a little less visible. But now Lola was demanding that she take it off, just to humiliate her more. "Go on," Lola pressed. "Or are you scared?" The class waited for her response. Sasha smirked. Vivian whispered something into Lola's ear, and Angela felt like she was suffocating. She closed her eyes for a brief second, trying to find a way out. But there was none. Slowly, she began to remove the cardigan, her hands trembling as she folded it in front of her. Every movement felt like an eternity. When it was finally off, the room fell silent for a moment. But then Vivian, trying to break the tension, sneered. "Wow, not only is she hairy, but look at that patch of fuzz on her chest. Maybe it's contagious," she mocked. Angela's face burned. She wanted to shrink into herself, to disappear, but the words kept coming. The laughter kept building. "Is that your real skin, or did you draw it on?" Lola asked, eyeing the patch of dark hair on Angela's arms. "Maybe we should call you Bigfoot." The room erupted in laughter. Angela stood frozen, humiliated beyond words. But then something happened. Something Angela had never expected. A voice cut through the laughter like a blade. "Enough!" The class fell silent. Angela's heart skipped a beat as she turned to look at the source of the voice. It was Mr. Davis, their form tutor. He was tall and usually quiet, but today his face was flushed with anger. "You think bullying is funny?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "You think making fun of someone for something they can't control is hilarious?" The class didn't know how to respond. It wasn't often that Mr. Davis spoke like this. "Lola," he said, glaring at her, "you're the leader of this, aren't you? You're the one who's been feeding the flames." He turned to the rest of the class. "All of you should be ashamed of yourselves." Lola didn't back down. She stood taller, her hands on her hips. "I don't know what you mean, Mr. Davis. We were just having a little fun." "No, you weren't," Mr. Davis snapped. "And I'm done with this." He turned to Angela. "You can go back to your seat, Angela. I'll be talking to your classmates about this later." Angela didn't move. Her legs were like jelly, her mind a whirlwind. Was this some kind of joke? Would he actually do something about it? Or was it just empty words? She looked at the class, but no one dared to make eye contact. Lola's face had turned pale, but she wasn't done yet. She opened her mouth to say something, but Mr. Davis cut her off. Lola, don't say another word. Angela walked back to her seat, her hands shaking, her heart still racing. She didn't know what had just happened. She didn't know if Mr. Davis was really going to do something about it. But for once, there was a tiny spark of hope inside her. But just when she thought it was over, the bell rang, and as Angela was about to leave the class, Lola's voice echoed behind her. I'm not done with you, jungle girl. Angela's breath caught in her throat. That night, as Angela sat in front of the mirror, she heard Lola's words echoing in her mind. She looked at her reflection, hating every inch of herself. She touched her face, her arms, wishing she could just peel off the skin, erase the hair, and become someone else. And that's when she noticed something that made her freeze. In the mirror, where her face should have reflected her own features, there was a shadow, a figure standing behind her. A figure she had never seen before. It was as if the reflection wasn't hers. It was someone else's. Angela gasped and spun around, but the room was empty. Was she losing her mind? Or was something more sinister at play? The weeks dragged on, but Angela's life at school had started to change. The whispers didn't stop. The stares didn't disappear. But something inside her had shifted, just enough to make her stronger. That strange shadow in the mirror hadn't returned, but Angela couldn't forget the way it had made her feel. It was like it had awakened something deep inside her. A quiet voice that told her she didn't have to be broken. Not anymore. The bullying didn't stop, though. Lola and her pack still made fun of her every chance they got. But Angela stopped letting their words pierce her. She stopped reacting to their taunts. She walked into class with her head held a little higher, her steps a little firmer. And then one afternoon it happened. It was during lunch. The usual crowd gathered around the cafeteria, and Angela sat alone at her usual table, staring at her food. She was used to being by herself. After all, she wasn't quite sure how to fit in anymore. But then, someone sat down across from her. It was Vivian. Angela froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. Vivian was one of the worst, always the first to laugh when Lola made a joke about her. Vivian smiled, but it wasn't her usual mocking grin. It was different. A little softer, maybe. Hey, Vivian said, her voice quieter than usual. Can we talk? Angela blinked, confused. She didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. Look, Vivian began, lowering her gaze to her lunch. I'm sorry. For everything. Angela couldn't believe it. Vivian? Apologizing? The same girl who once told her she looked like a walking forest and a beast? Angela opened her mouth, but no words came out. She couldn't find the strength to speak. Vivian, seeing her hesitation, continued. I've been thinking about it. About how we treated you. Vivian looked up, her eyes finally meeting Angela's. We were wrong. You didn't deserve any of it. Angela's heart pounded. She couldn't decide if she was angry or relieved. A part of her wanted to yell, to ask why it took so long for this apology to come. But another part of her, a quieter part, felt a sense of peace wash over her. Why? Angela whispered, her voice trembling. Why now? Vivian looked away, biting her lip. I was scared. We all were. We followed Lola because we thought it made us strong. But now I see. I see it was only making us weak. Angela took a deep breath, feeling the weight of those words settle in her chest. Lola, their leader, the one who'd ruled over them all, had been feeding off their fear, their insecurities. And Vivian was the first to see through it. Angela looked at her, the tears threatening to spill over. She had spent so long fighting the hate, fighting to fit in, that she never imagined she'd hear these words. You don't have to apologize, Angela said, her voice quiet but steady. I've learned to stop waiting for others to change me. If I want to be happy, I have to do it for myself. Vivian's eyes widened, and Angela smiled, feeling lighter with each passing second. People can say what they want, Angela continued, her voice growing stronger. But it's my choice whether I let it hurt me. And I choose to be happy. I choose to see myself for who I am, not through the eyes of others. You can't let anyone decide your worth. Not the people who tear you down, and not the people who pretend to be your friends. Vivian looked like she was about to say something, but Angela held up her hand. No, it's okay. Angela smiled softly. I don't need an apology. I've already forgiven you. I've been learning that forgiveness isn't for them, it's for me. Vivian blinked, her lips parting as if she was about to speak. But Angela didn't give her a chance. People make mistakes. I've made mistakes too. And that's okay. But we can't let those mistakes define us, Angela said, looking around at the students in the cafeteria, who were watching the scene unfold. We get to choose who we become. And I choose to be me, no matter how messy that is. The words were raw, but they were the truth. For the first time, Angela felt free. The weight of self-doubt that had crushed her for so long had finally been lifted. She wasn't perfect, but she didn't have to be. She was enough, just as she was. Vivian stared at her in stunned silence. Slowly, she nodded. You're right. I don't know how to explain it, but I wish I'd seen it sooner. Angela stood up, picking up her tray. She smiled at Vivian, the girl who had once tormented her. Maybe you'll find your way too one day. But until then, Angela said, turning to leave, just be kind. To yourself. And to others. The room seemed to hold its breath as she walked out of the cafeteria, her back straight, her shoulders relaxed. For the first time, she didn't care who was watching. She didn't care who laughed. She was free. And so, Angela walked into her future, stronger, braver, and more herself than ever before. She'd learned that life wasn't about being perfect. It was about embracing your flaws, standing tall in the face of adversity, and knowing that you were enough, just as you were. The queens had their moment of power, but in the end, Angela had the last laugh.